Hello, welcome to the online training for travel and expense reimbursement for the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering here at the University of Minnesota. I'm Kyle Ducart. I'm the Administrative Director for the department, and I'm here to help guide you through the process for traveling and submitting your travel reimbursements and as well as some other expense reimbursements. And just to start out, the first thing you should know is that everything you need to be able to be reimbursed for travel and to purchase items related to travel or for other expense reimbursements can be found on our ECE intranet site. You can go directly to the travel page at z.umn.edu/ECE travel. You can also visit Keller Hall 4-174B for help. Alyssa and Sylvia are currently in roles that will help you with any travel questions, especially related to the Chrome River, which is coming out and we will get to soon. You can also email ECE Purge with any questions. So let's get going on this presentation. First of all, this little PowerPoint presentation before we get into the demo will be a summary of travel and expense reimbursement policies on campus. The entire policy exists for travel. An entire policy exists for travel alone, and this presentation will not cover every possible scenario, so you're responsible for understanding those travel policies here. The important website to know is travel.umn.edu, where you can go for all this information, register for travel, make bookings, and enter Chrome River. So be sure you're aware of that website. So a few things to remember before you travel, just so people know this. If you're traveling internationally, you need to pre-register. There's the links right there for students and for faculty and staff and postdocs and other people on campus. You can go to travel.umn.edu to find those links too. But it's very important that you register. It's a policy that you register when you travel internationally. And it's mostly done for your own protection. Should anything happen in the traveling countries, we know where our people are and we can help with any situations that might occur. So it's very important that you travel before you register before you travel. Other things to know. We are under the Fly America Act when it comes to traveling on federal grants and funds. So make sure you understand what the Fly America Act is. You need to, when traveling internationally, use a U.S. flagged carrier. Our people in ECE can help you with that if that's a problem. It's also useful to use the travel agencies who can make sure that that happens too. We'll get to that in a little bit. This is a very important note about personal travel. A lot of times people will do personal travel along with their work travel, which can be fine, but it's very important that you are able to demonstrate that the personal travel did not impact in any way the cost of the business travel. So how do you do this? You need to basically run flight comparisons that show that the cost of the flight times are not impacted by the personal travel. So usually it's done by a comparison where you would just get quotes for the flight had you not taken the personal travel and submit that as a comparison. So it's possible that the total costs can increase and the university will not incur that cost. So you have to make sure you do this. If you don't do this, you're subject to losing out on a lot of dollars that you otherwise would be able to get back. So make sure you follow those policies. Again, the travel agencies can help you with that. Speaking of the U of M travel agencies, if you go to travel.umn.edu, you will see a link to Christofferson Travel. And there's another travel agency too that we use. They can be very useful. They can help you if anything goes awry on your trip. So this is one of the most important things about the travel agencies. If something, flights get canceled or there are problems at the airport, you can call the travel agency and they will run interference for you and make sure that things are fixed in your travel. They can do comparison quotes for personal travel. You can do this stuff online or on the phone. And there is a nominal fee with this, but they can make sure that you follow all the rules, the Fly America Act and other things. So it can be much easier to use a travel agent when booking travel, especially over multiple locations or for international travel. So consider using them. We think it is worth the extra cost, the small extra costs, and the university does too. As for reimbursement limits, you can be reimbursed for travel to and from the airport. In terms of your food and expenses while you're traveling, we follow the federal per diem rates. And just remember that partial days or travel days are 75% of that per diem rate. And it's a limit. You can always request less than the per diem. And this means you don't have to keep any receipts for food or incidentals during the day. You can just worry about requesting the per diem when you return from the trip. Remember, too, that hotel limits are 150% of the GSE rate. There's an exception for conferences. So if there's a conference hotel, then that is acceptable, whatever that rate is determined to be. Other things, airfare restrictions, you need to be flying economy or economy comfort unless it's over 8 hours. And anytime you go up a class to business or first class, you need a pre-approval. Baggage will pay for a first bag only. And changes and cancellations are acceptable. This needs to be a business reason for it. Remember, too, that tipping limits when you're doing business expenses for food, when you're doing hospitality mainly. This is not when you're on travel, because on travel you would be requesting per diems. But if you're requesting expenses for taking people out for hospitality, the maximum limit for tipping is 20%, and the excess will just simply not be reimbursed. So, what about submitting reimbursements? We've done it on paper for a long time, and now in spring 2019, the university has rolled out Chrome River, and we'll demo that in a second. This means there's no more paper or spreadsheet forms, and no more travel envelopes if people are used to using that in ECE. What it means is you have to log on to a system on MyU. You go to Key Links and You Travel, and you can also use this Z link here, and then we have a link to it too on our intranet site on ECE Travel. So when you're documenting expenses, you need to make sure every receipt is an itemized receipt, and anything over $25 requires a receipt, except for meals, of course, which are under the per diem. There are a few ways to get receipts in the Chrome River. One is to email a receipt to receipt@chromefile.com, which you'll find that information on the referencing web pages I pointed to earlier. You just have to do it from your own University of Minnesota email address, obviously, so it can link up to your account. And there's also a nifty app for Android and iOS called Chrome River Snap, CR Snap, I think, if you search for on the app or Play Store, you'll be able to find that. You set up your account very quickly, and it's very easy to use, and receipts will show up in your system, which we'll demonstrate shortly. Reimbursement timeline, 60-day limit from return travel or transaction date of purchase. So after 60 days, that's a problem. You need to get it done in 60 days. After 60 days, we cannot reimburse on any federal grants, no exceptions at all. We can potentially reimburse on other funds, but they will be called taxable income, and you will be taxed on it, so it's a big disadvantage. So make sure you get it within that 60-day limit. It takes about, can take up to 2 weeks for reimbursements to happen. Often a lot faster, but there are things behind the scenes that have to happen sometimes. So expect up to 2 weeks, and you can always check your status in Chrome River. There are job aids that show you how to check where things are if you want to ping someone to figure out why something hasn't been approved. A couple things to remember here. Be sure justification addresses the benefit to project or research group, program, department, college, University of Minnesota. So make sure that justification is clear. If you're going to a conference, why are you there? Are you presenting a paper? Are you working on collaboration for your research project? Anything like that, you need to address the benefit. And anything with hospitality or business meals, be sure you include a list of attendees always. And just note that traveling is different. You should never be taking people out when you're traveling, unless you seek pre-approval. There are very limited times when that is allowed, but mostly everybody should be operating on a per diem basis when they're on travel status. And once again, itemized receipts, no generic credit card receipts. We need itemized receipts. Let's see. So now we're getting to Chrome River here. Chrome River, just to make this clear, is just for employees. And that would include, of course, grad students, too, who are employed as research assistants or teaching assistants. So, or undergraduate research assistants and such. And it's for all travel and also non-travel, and this usually includes hospitality. Although sometimes you need to be reimbursed for other items too that you may have paid for out of pocket. Although we have other ways to purchase those, so we prefer you avoid that. Another thing is the non-employee reimbursement stays the same, so that's still a form that you can find on the website or in our main office for if you're facilitating the reimbursement for non-employees. One thing to be aware of in Chrome River, there's an approval process for this, and it's sequential. So after you fill out your travel reimbursement, is going to route to your supervisor, and that person will receive an email with an approve or not approve button at the very top of the email. They simply have to click approve, and it will move on again to the department accountants, who will then look to make sure that everything is in order. And that it can proceed for reimbursement. And of course, sometimes it needs a certified approver if it's on federal grants. So 2 additional levels beyond the supervisor. There are some rare occasions, depending on the dollar amount or if it's late or something like that, that it has to move through at higher levels. Now, one thing to be aware here is this whole supervisor who it routes to might not be perfect, especially right away, so we'll make sure we try to get that going. It's based on the HR system. But sometimes people will travel on grants that are maybe directed by people who aren't their supervisor. We can't change where it routes to, so in that case, your supervisor may have to do some cooperating in the sense of sending that approval to the person who should actually be signing off on the travel and sending that back, and that can be added as documentation in the whole process. So those are things we need to work out. Certainly seek help if you need to figure out what to do in those situations. So we're going to move into the demo now, but just one last note. All the information you need to figure this out is going to be on our ECE internet site. So feel free to go to our generic ECE internet site and link to the travel page, or you can directly link to it by going to z.umn.edu/ECE travel. And hopefully we give you all the help you need. The way that the university has decided to roll this out is they've trained navigators, and we have a few navigators in our department who are here to help people with this transition to figure out all the issues. So like I mentioned earlier, Alyssa is our point person in 4174B for all questions, and she will help guide you through this process. We also have Sylvia Hill in the same office, and our financial supervisor, Linda Bullis, can also help, as can I. So you'll be able to find help in that accounting hallway in the main office. So let's exit into the demo here. So MyU, go to MyU. All you need to do is hit key links and go to uTravel. And you'll see right to the right you have your Chrome River login along with some job aids if you want to take a look at this stuff. There's a lot of good job aids out there, and it's growing. So let's go ahead and log in. here it is. Now, one thing I'll point out too about Chrome River is it works very well on mobile. It doesn't have its own mobile app except for the Snap app, which brings receipts in, but it's a responsive website design, so you can do this on your phone pretty well, actually. So while you're traveling, it's a good time to maybe get your reimbursements in order and get them in. So you can see I have no drafts, no return. It gives you just kind of a status of what's going on. Just a quick overview of what you can see here. There's a left menu here with where you can see all the receipts and stuff that are available on here. Returned, recently submitted if you want to track where things are. There's some settings you can set up in here. If you want to go through that, there's like a walkthrough you can launch, which I think will come up the first time you do this to help you. So that can be helpful as well. There's a help section, all the stuff you would need. But we're going to just dive in and do a reimbursement or submit a reimbursement for travel. So you said new, and I'm going to do a new expense report. You can pretty much safely ignore a new pre-approval report if you're an ECE, as we don't require that. So a new expense report. And you got to name it. So this is something that makes sense for you. I'm going to call it International. Whoa. International Trip Demo, because that's what this is. I want to be paid in US dollars. I think that's the only option. My affiliation, staff, trip type. This is international trip. The expense start. Let's say I just traveled the 1st through the 4th of April. Whoops, I want to put the 4th because that's what I'm prepared for. My destination is Seoul, South Korea. So let's select there. You can see the stuff pops up in terms of destination. You should be able to find anything. You can search it many different ways, by country, by state, city, all that stuff. I'm also going to add another location. So let me go down here. You can see when you click it, you get the additional information pops up on the bottom. So this is going to be a trip that goes to 2 cities. So I'm going to set that destination as Singapore as my other destination. Different parts of Singapore. I can't remember which part I'm in, but we'll say it was that one. If it includes personal travel, you want to do that. I'm not going to go over that today. Externally funded, if it was funded by somewhere outside the university, you probably want to click that. As for business purpose, this is the justification that goes through. Now, you don't have to put dates or cities or anything because that's all in there, but you do need to tell us why you're traveling. So I'm presenting talk titled Making Travel, let's spell this right, Travel Easy at International Conference for the Society of University Bureaucrats. Proud bureaucrat that I am. Okay, so I'm going to skip the start date. That's optional. I'm not going to add another location. I'm going to hit save, and I've started the whole process. So here's the basics of my trip right over here, and you can see if I go back to the dashboard, there it is. I can click on it. It'll bring it up, give me a status of what's going on. Now I need to open it back up again. Now what I want to do is I want to add the first part of my expense. So if I click this plus sign here, my expenses come up. And this is basically a collection of receipts that have been collected already. You can see I have some receipts there. The first thing I'm going to do is I know that I still have not added my parking receipt. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to search for the CR Snap app right here on my phone. And I have my receipt right here. It opens right up. I just snap a picture, click upload, and let that be. So that's going to show up here in a second, but we'll just move on for now. So the first thing we're going to do is we have a receipt. You can see that when the receipt came in, it actually identified it as a flight right here. So, and it was a couple pages long, so it combined, it merged a couple pages into a single receipt. Oh, look at that. Our ground transportation has shown up, or our other receipt, I'm sorry. Oh, wait, no, it hasn't. I take that back. It will show up soon. Trust me. Anyway, here's the receipt for the airline. We can select it and hit add. So it's going to add it to this reimbursement. You see there's a picture of it right there. But it's going to ask me for some more information. The date that it was purchased. So I thought way ahead, and I purchased back in 2015. It actually pulls that off of the receipt. So it'll often try to read OCR information off the receipts and fill it in for you. It was able to find the correct price. Now sometimes you have to correct this if it doesn't read the receipt correctly, but it tries to pull stuff in. You can see the business purpose carries forward. And I got to select the class, economy coach. I am only a bureaucrat after all. Airline Delta, booking method. I use Christopherson Business Travel because that's what I'm supposed to use. Let's see. You can put other information in here. Not always necessary. I'm going to leave it blank for now so we can move on. And then we get to the all-important allocation here. So this is the budget strings that we need to search for to pay this under. Now you see when I clicked on it, a few of the ones that I use pop up. So once you use these, you can click on it and some of the more common ones will show up. But in terms of how you want to search for these, what probably makes the most sense in ECE is one of two ways. If it's on a federally funded grant, using the project number, which you can look up on Chart of Accounts, of course, or get from your supervisor or PI. And if you do a search for a project number, you can get that in here. So let's do one. I got a project number here. This is actually, here we go. So it popped right up. There's my project number right in there. You can see the rest of the chart string is in here. And even for projects has part of the title in there that you can see. So I'm going to select that allocation. And then after you select the allocation, you need to select the account code. And this is usually self-explanatory. So this is international travel, so you need to click international travel. And the other ones are pretty self-explanatory about what you want to do. Remember, travel, this is travel within Minnesota. So if you're staying in Minnesota, you need to choose this one. Now, the other way to search if you're using non-sponsored funds, most of the time for non-sponsored funds, it's going to have the PI's ample ID, employee ID in there. So if you know your employee ID or you know your supervisor's employee ID, you can use that and you should get a list of the common non-sponsored accounts that are available and choose the right one. Of course, you can search any portion of the allocation string here. So as long as you know parts of it, it'll start to pop up and you can find what you're looking for. Now you can also add additional allocations. So I'm going to add a second one because I'm going to split this in half, which is probably a common thing to do. I got another project number here. And so let's put that in there. And you can see it defaults to 50-50. You can certainly change this. Let's change this to 60-40. And you can do it by dollars too. And then let's make sure we select this as international, of course. And the receipts are already in there as we already put those in. And then what we can do is hit save. And we've already completed the travel or the airfare portion of this. So you can see it's listed here. You can always click on it to edit some more if you want. Hit edit or delete it if you want to start over. And you see this green check mark, which is important, which tells you that everything is fine in how you entered the fields. So, moving on. Now, I'm starting to get a little worried that my oh no, there is the parking. It did show up. I was right. It did show up. There it is. There's the parking receipt that we just took a picture of. It has shown up, so it is available there. So let's go ahead and add that expense. Parking. We parked at the airport. And you can see you get a picture of the receipt. Parking is pretty straightforward. It's going to pull the date again off the receipt, so it pulled this date off for 2015. You can always correct that. Additional information, probably not really needed. Parking is self-explanatory. The merchant, I pulled that off there, Park MSP, but you can see it's a little bit off, so we're going to fix that. And you can see it. What's nice is it carries the allocation forward. So the allocation you enter the first time is going to carry forward through all these, because usually you would want it to carry it forward across all of the different ones. But you can change it if you need to. So save. We're done with that. Then why don't we quickly add a Lyft that we took on our trip. So I'm going to click that receipt. We get a picture of our Lyft driver thanking me for my travels. It picked out the date from the receipt correctly. The amount spent picked out correctly. The merchant's Lyft and additional information. The merchant is there, so that all kind of OCR'd into there just fine. Allocation stays the same. Receipt's up there. And let's hit save for that. And we are making so much progress. Isn't this fun? We got 3 things in there already. We have a 21, 28, 19 amount. But we haven't finished yet. We got a couple things left, and these are the more complicated things. So right now we got another receipt here. What is this receipt? Let me click on this. Oh, that is my stay at the Plaza Hotel in Seoul. So it doesn't know what it is. But let's click on that. You can see there's just a question mark there. And let's hit add. And then what it's going to do is ask me a valid expense type. And the expense type, this is lodging. It's the hotel. So once we hit the lodging part, it's going to ask some more questions. The date of the purchase, which is, it's going to pull from the receipt. The amount spent. Oh, 2015 Korean won. No, that is incorrect. In fact, I believe the total, let's see, let's zoom in on this receipt here that we sent in. The total, you can see there's a lot of writing on here. So what happened is we actually spent $560,500. So let's correct that. $560,500. That seems a lot more in line with a hotel stay for a couple of nights. So you can see it does a conversion here based on the date of travel. Let's if we move this head a few months, that's going to change the conversion rate. So it's going to do it based on the day you do that, the day that the purchase was made. So make sure you get that right for that reason. But it should catch that from the receipt if it does it correctly. This is obviously not the merchant. Got that wrong. This receipt is kind of ugly, so it had a little problem with it. So it's the Plaza Hotel. Allocation, staying the same there. There's the attachment. Great save. Wow, we got done with hotel. That was fantastic. Oh, wait. There's a violation. We have violated something. It's red. It's not going to let me submit this. I got too much red on the screen. So if we look on this, it says the amount of expense needs to be fully itemized. Oh, yes, that's a requirement, isn't it, by the U. They want us to itemize these receipts. So we can look over here, and there's a nice itemized button. So let's go in there, and we got to do a few things under lodging to do this. First of all, let's add the room charge. Now, if you look on the receipt, the room charge was a total for both nights. So I added this together myself. You don't need to itemize each night, but the total charge on room charges was $450,000. And this stuff, stays the same, guest, check-in date. But you notice that this is grayed out here, and we need to fill this out. This is allowable total. This is where we're figuring what is allowed to be the expense to be. So if we stayed here on April 1st and checked out April 3rd, and we were in Seoul, which should pop up if you used it recently. We had one room. You can see now it's coming down here. It's finding the average daily room rate of 230 is what's allowed. Base total is 460. Allowable total is 690. And you can hit save. And the allowable total is 690. We're only at 376, so we're in good shape. Not a problem. Of course, if you are over, hopefully if you're over, you're in conference lodge, you can just click this, and then this is suddenly becomes not a problem. Allocations there again, as always, and now we can save that part of the itemization. We're not done yet, of course, because we haven't itemized everything. We need to also itemize the taxes and fees, which if you look on the receipt, total $94,500. Basically, that's all you need to do. You can save for that. And then finally, there's one other charge on there that's not included in any of these, which is a bus pass I got to the airport. So let's put that in there. That was $16,000. And additional information here, since it's other, we want to say what this is. Bus pass to the airport on departure. So we can hit save there. With any luck, this adds up to the total. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. And it looks like lodging has turned green. All the sub-items are itemized underneath it, and we're in good shape there. So that's good news. So the one thing we haven't done is gotten reimbursed for our food and expenses along the way. So the last thing we can show you here is adding an expense where you would hit create new here, because a per diem is not going to have receipts. That's the whole point. And if you hit create new, you can see all your options, and there's a per diem option. So what you want to do in almost every case is the per diem wizard, which makes this pretty easy. So you hit per diem wizard, and we're going to add, we were in 2 cities, so we got to add the start date. We're in 1st through the 3rd. We were in Seoul. So we're going to, you can see the allocations down here. We're just going to add those entries. And then we're also going to add, we were in Singapore for 2 days, the 3rd and the 4th. So let's go here. Add Singapore. And go ahead and add those entries too. So they're going to be over here to the right, so we have all these entries. Now, one thing, of course, you don't have a per diem for 2 days. You got this overlap. Generally, the rule would be you would add the city that you're arriving at for that per diem. So I'm going to go ahead and just, if you added extra one, I'm just going to get rid of Seoul on Wednesday because we're going to use Singapore's per diem on that day. Okay, so you can do some, if you click on these, you can change what you're getting per diem for. So it assumes it's a travel day on the first day. So it's at 75% of cost. And you can take things out. But let's say it's a travel day. I didn't really spend that much, so I don't want as much to go off the grant. So I'm going to deduct $40 off. You can see that adjusted down $40. Now, on Tuesday, I was at a conference, and they served me breakfast, lunch, and dinner as part of the conference registration. So my per diem's down to $28. This was actually a travel day on the trip, but it's a full day, so we can claim the full per diem for that day because we were not going home on those days. Conference provided breakfast before I left, and then I took off. I'm going to leave that there, and then on Thursday evening I left. It was a travel day, but had to claim all 3, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so there I've hit it, everything I need to do for the per diem on those days. So I'm just going to add that to the report. And so no more looking up per diems on some website chart somewhere. It all takes care of it within the system, which is very nice. And so now we have completed a pretty thorough expense report, and you can see everything's checked. It's going to pay me $2,900 almost, or a little bit more than that. And that is really everything. As you can see, it's not that hard to use. Of course, there are a lot of different options and a lot of things that are going to come up that you may need help with. There are a lot of job aids out there to help you do it. But I think after a time or two, this will become second nature, and it should be a lot quicker and easier for people to submit their receipts and their expense reimbursements. I'm not going to hit submit to show you what happens, because then this would route and people would wonder about my trip to Korea and Singapore for a strange conference. So I'll leave it at that. And just to end it, a reminder to always ask for help. We have help in 174B if people need it, and plenty of guides and job aids available on the website. So thank you for paying attention and watching this demo, and happy travels to everyone.